Hello my Foonatics and welcome to week 11 of the GBA. This week we're going up against Fizz and the Atlanta Hawluchas. Again, I've played him before, so this is my chance at a salty run back because I did lose the first time. We're currently 3-7, clawing back some dignity from the initial horrors of this season, which was pretty bad. And I really intend to continue that. I want to get one more win before the end of the season, and that's between either Fizz or Chimpact. Chimpact I lost 6-0 to, so this is definitely the more likely situation. But I think ending the season with 4 wins would feel quite nice. So I really want to try for that. But Fizz has made some changes to his teams, which yeah, it's actually really improved it. I will do team builder a bit first here, and then you can go and watch the battle afterwards. I'll probably leave a time link in the description so that if you don't particularly want to watch the team builder bit, you don't have to. But if you want to know what was going on, then I advise you to do so. So let's get into that right now. So yeah, I'll flash Fizz's team up. He made some swaps, and actually I really think they went in his benefit. So he managed to get the main one was getting Florges because it completes his fairy dragon steel core, but it was more that he had more dragon type answers. Last time I brought a banded dragonite because I knew that his only real switch in for a banded dragonite was Scizor, and I had Fire Punch for that. Whereas now he's got 2 things that could potentially switch in on dragon type attacks. I thought that might not be the best thing to bring. And yeah, he could just build a better defensive core, I think, with like P2 and Florges. I didn't even see P2 last time, so he could definitely bring a very different team to the one I saw last time. Having said that, looking on your screen, I'm actually bringing the exact same 6 Pokemon to the one I brought last time. Now, I'm doing that for 2 reasons. One, because I actually think that a lot of the Mons are really important to check some of the things that he has. But also 2, because he might see this team and think that it's exactly the same, and that may well go in my favour, and I'll explain that in a minute. So first of all, I am going to bring the same Crocodile. I might have gone Adamant last time, I can't remember, but I'm going Jolly this time just to make sure that I outspeed specific things. And with this set, it hits his whole team really hard. He does have Floor just now, which means that he's got another thing that can take knockoffs quite well, so I can't spam it quite as much. But defensive Floor just is 2-hit KO'd by the Earthquake from this thing. I've also got Fire Fang there. Rocks are super important, and he has got 2 defoggers in Scizor and Salamence. My aim is really to prioritise hazards, I think, this week. Last time he had defog Salamence. I was anticipating defog Scizor, and I played badly around the Salamence, and it was eventually really my undoing, I would say. So I really want to make sure that I'm looking out for what his potential defogger is. But yeah, this is my Stealth Rocker, and Fire Fang does deal with Mega Scizor, so it's only really Salamence I have to worry about. And yeah, so I just need to keep that in my mind. So very powerful threat against his team. Even like Porygon 2, that's defensive. I can knock off its Violite with this thing, so he doesn't have amazing switches in for the Crocodile, so that's really good for me. The next thing I'm bringing is Mew. It's a very similar Mew to the one I brought last time, just because Volcanion is a huge threat. There aren't really many things on my team that could deal with it well. The other thing being I could bring a specially defensive Suicune, which could try and roar it out, but that was very dependent on me having hazards. Anyway, this thing is there to get Toxics on his team. It beats Porygon, which is definitely something that could come. It beats Florges, which is definitely something that could come because I've got the Toxic Taunt combination. And then I've switched up the Psychic Stab I had last time for Flamethrower, mainly because I want something to be able to do something to Mega Scizor. I want Mega Scizor gone. I don't want it to have a good matchup against me at all, because if it's the Defogger, I want it to go away, and just because it's a scary threat with a priority, as I do have less priority this time. And Roost is just there for longevity, so that's, and also a bit of speed to prevent speed creep really more than anything. So that's the Mew. Now, Dragonite is the first kind of main divergence from last time. Instead of Choice Band, I've gone Expert Belt because I believe that this will break walls better than a Choice Banded variant would compared to last time. So, here I've got Aqua Tail for the Rhyperia, I've got Superpower for the Porygon 2, I've got Fire Punch for the Scizor, and then Dragon Claw just as a stab move. There were a couple of other moves that I was considering. I had considered Earthquake to hit Volcanion really hard, but then I thought actually Dragon Claw still hits that pretty hard because it's probably going to be an offensive mod, it won't be invested in defense. EQ would hit it a lot harder, obviously, but I do have things to avenge that already in terms of Crocodile, and this thing, when it comes in, he will probably want to switch into its check. It will most likely have a dedicated check, I would have thought, and I'm thinking that the coverage on this is relatively good at dealing with those checks. The only thing that the only other move that I would consider would have been Iron Tail or Iron Head or something to hit Florges, because that could well be its dedicated switch in, but Florges serves a really important purpose for me alive, which I will go into. So yeah, Expert Belt Dragonite. Really the main thing was I really wanted the superpower to get rid of Porygon, because that is going to be a big stop to my team if I don't deal with it. So anyway, yes, Dragonite is really cool. I don't have E-Speed this time either, so offensive threats could be a bit scarier, but I'm hoping that the defensive side of my team will be able to deal with that a little bit better this time. So we have Klefki as my next Pokemon. This thing is slightly a dragon check. I've invested a bit more wisely this time, because last time I wanted it to check Salamence and went full defensive because I was really scared of a Dragon Dance set, and then it turned out to be Special Life Orb and OHKO'd, pretty much OHKO'd Klefki with a Life Orb Fire Blast. So this time I've hedged a bit more. This Klefki can survive an Earthquake after Rocks if it's the Life Orb set. So that's really good. I do get the Prankster move off anyway, so I don't need to live a hit necessarily, but that would require me sacking something else. So ideally, I want to be able to live a hit. And then the special defense gives me a decent chance to live a Life Orb Fire Blast, but it's not 100%. So basically, Klefki can still be OHKO'd by Salamence, depending on the set. If it's a wall-breaking Salamence, then it possibly can. But if it's a setup set, then it's probably a bit more of a safer switch in. The move that I've gone for, Spikes, are really important. I really, really want to emphasize Hazard this time, because I know that Fizz's team doesn't like them very much. But he does have a couple of decent defoggers, so I just need to bear that in mind. Dazzling Gleam is there because it is basically just a decent stab move, but it deals immediate damage to Salamence and also Hawlucha, which this thing might have to check a little bit. So that's why I went for Dazzling Gleam. Foul Play just to hit an SD Scizor so it can't set up in my face. And then Thunder Wave just for the Salamence, really. So that's the Klefki. Moving on from there is Soggy Doggy. Another thing to potentially check a spooky Salamence, but it also helps with the likes of Hawlucha and other physical threats. I wanted this as well as Klefki because Klefki will probably not be able to take on more than one thing, and that thing is most likely going to be Salamence, so I wanted Suicune just to take a bit of pressure off the Klefki. It also helps with Volcanion, as Volcanion doesn't have weight, though Suicune completely can't hit Volcanion. Volcanion doesn't have very good ways to hit this either. Its stabs are resisted. And with Raw on there, if I've got my hazards up, it will actually be doing a lot of damage to Volcanion, so I'm hoping that's a decent way of dealing with it. Ice Beam there for immediate ways to kill and deal with Salamence, and also just a way to hit Heliolisk as well, which is something that Fizz has got, and I would expect him to bring, because he didn't have it last time. He had Electivire, but Heliolisk is a better matchup against a Suicune anyway, so I would expect that to come. So at least I've got a way to hit it, and I've also got Raw to phase. And then the final one, and this is the big change, and the thing that I've based a lot of the rest of the team around, is the meme itself, Nasty Plot Crobat. Now, let me explain this set a little bit. It's got speed enough to outspeed a Jolly Hawlucha. I doubt that he would bring a Jolly Hawlucha. I would very much expect an Adamant one, but I didn't really want to risk not outspeeding it because I do want to be able to hit that with this. It could be quite hard to deal with otherwise. Especially because it could be a subset and this thing has Infiltrator. So if I can, as it's trying to sub down to the amount of health, if I can bring this thing in and just hit it behind its sub, then that's a brilliant way to deal with it. So anyway, yeah, I've got all the special attack investment, the rest in bulk. It's actually got really decent coverage. Sludge Bomb hits loads of things for pretty good damage, and I've given it the Poison Barb just to hit a bit harder. The only real coverage I felt I needed was Heat Wave to hit Sizzle, which is obviously immune to the Sludge Bomb, and that will OHKO at +2. It does a really decent amount without the +2 anyway. And then the other thing is Giga Drain for the Rhyperior, again doing very good damage. If it's specially defensive at +2, it doesn't necessarily OHKO, but if it's just bulky, then I stand a chance at OHKOing with the Giga Drain. But those two are both things that I would expect to take damage quite easily anyway, because they generally are switch-ins, so I should be able to deal with them. And that's why I haven't gone with Expert Belt, because I feel like I just need a little bit of damage on both of them, and then I can OHKO them anyway. To power up my Sludge Bomb is more important, because then this thing can act as a revenge killer as well. So I will be able to get bigger damage on things like Heliolisk, Salamence, and the Volcanion, which is good. And also it powers up my Sludge Bomb against Florges anyway. So yeah, that's why I said Florges might be important, because I will be able to set up nasty plots on it. Even if I come in on rocks, if it's an uninvested Florges, Psychic is not going to take me out. So that was one consideration that I had to make. I don't have too many opportunities to set up nasty plots, although I can potentially threaten out his fast attackers, and that might be a chance to nasty plot as well as on Florges. But that's my idea with Crobat. If I do get my hazards up, I might not even need to go for a nasty plot. I might be able to just sweep with my coverage. But yeah, Nasty Bat is actually my win condition this week, and I am hoping to be able to clean up with it. The only issue is that it can maybe be revenged by Scarfers, so I need to watch out for Scarfers and identify them soon. Yeah, Mega Sizzles, Bullet Punch as well is something I need to consider. That's the team. Some things that I haven't mentioned on Fizz's roster that I will hopefully be able to deal with are... so I think Zoroark is actually a really scary prospect against my team. I do have Crocodile to take on a more physical variant. If it's a special variant, then I probably will have to rely on Klefki a bit more. And that is a bit of a problem, because obviously I want Klefki for other things. But, again, if I do have the Crobat, which should be able to outspeed and do really good damage with the Sludge Bomb. And I think I should be able to deal with it. Klefki should be able to deal with it relatively easily, actually. And it probably will survive the encounter. It's then hoping that I'll be able to get a Thunder Wave off or it perform its job with everything else. I'm not necessarily expecting it, but it could come from the Mew is all I'm thinking. So yeah, that's the team. I'm pretty happy with it. I do, in my head, I think I've got answers to all the things I need answers for. And then I've got some offensive threats that I really don't think Fizz will see coming. So especially... So the Nasty Plot Crobat, I don't think he would necessarily expect that, and I really do think that it could put in a lot of work. And then also this Dragonite, what I like about this Dragonite, because as I say, I've brought the exact same 6 Pokemon as before, some of the same sets, some of them slightly different. But this one, because I brought a Banded Dragonite last time, he might expect Banded again if I don't show an item and I'm doing big damage with my coverage moves. And they are random coverage moves, they're not moves that you would expect on a setup set. So I'm hoping to bluff the band with this thing as well. So just some tricksy things that are playing into mind games from the previous game. I'm hoping that I can do some work here. He does have a very strong defensive core though, so we'll see what happens in the match. Okay, so looking at the team that Fizz brought, it's actually really different to what I was expecting. He doesn't have his Mega Sizzle, which is a bit crazy. I've got a lot of fire coverage on my team that's completely redundant now. Well, not completely redundant. He's got two things. We can Dry Skin, Heliolisk, and also Whimsicott. But yeah, he's got a lot of fast attackers, two potential setup ones in Salamence and Hawlucha. Does have that Volcanion that's really hard to switch in on, and boy am I glad that I did bring Superpower Dragonite, because otherwise Porygon 2 could be a really, really hard thing to take down. I do also have knockoff on my Crocodile as well, but yeah, no Mega Scizor, no Florges, which I definitely thought would be coming as well, and no Rhyperior, which means that he doesn't have any hazards of his own, but more importantly, his only option for hazard removal would be Salamence. And I was definitely thinking it would probably be more of a setup mon, although he does have Hawlucha, which could be his setup mon, so it could well be a bulky Salamence, which would maybe complement a defensive core quite well with Porygon, but we'll see. Anyways, what I wanted to lead with, I had a couple of thoughts. I wanted to lead with Crook because I just wanted to get my rocks up as soon as possible, but I thought that the lead matchup would probably be quite bad. I led with Crook last time. I would have thought that whatever he led with, he'd try to predict Crook. And it doesn't really have a great matchup against a lot of things. I'm thinking a potential Shuka Volcanion, so I would be a bit worried to lead an Earthquake straight away. The Heliolisk outspeeds and gets like Focus Blast and Surf, which can probably okay, definitely if it specs. There's the Whimsicott that could just be a U-turner, so it would be a good lead, but it also had the Moonblast and the Grass moves, so not a great lead there either, and Hawlucha as well, obviously. I think even with a -1, a high jump kick might take out my my Crocodile, and then Salamence, I don't know what it is. Draco would probably take out my Salamence, but Outrage or any physical attack wouldn't. And then Porygon can take any attack. So yeah, I didn't really like the look of Crook. I decided to lead with my Dragonite because it could get a big hit off on something maybe. And yeah, I just thought it was alright. Multiscale is still in effect at least. So we'll get into the battle and see what Fizz wants to lead with. This is recorded live. But I couldn't record at the time just because of sound and stuff in the background. I wouldn't have been able to record my voice. So this is like post-recorded live, which gives me a nice amount of time to speak and talk, and we get all the nice animations and stuff, and it's good. So anyway, he leads with Heliolisk, and I'm actually thinking, no, this isn't a great matchup. This isn't what I want to do, because he can just Volt Switch to break my multi-scale, and I do kind of want my multi-scale. If this thing can be full health against, say, Salamence, it means that I get a guaranteed hit against it, and Expert Belt Dragonclaw will do a lot of damage, even at -1, so I was thinking, actually, no, it's probably worth keeping my multi-scale, and so I am going to switch out, and what do I switch into? I switch into my Mew, because it's especially defensive, and yeah, it means that I can do things. So Mew comes out, and I'm going to go for a Toxic, because I really want to Toxic this Porygon. If it wants to paralyze me, that's kind of okay, because it means that I just won't be burned by the Steam Eruption from Volcanion, for which this is a switch in. He actually shows Magico here. I was thinking about clicking Taunt because it would stop like status and stuff, and he wouldn't be able to recover on me, but I was also thinking he might want to switch or do other stuff. But I'm actually really okay with this, because though I poison myself, because Synchronize, I get the Toxic on the Porygon 2, so that's actually a really good deal in my opinion, because I have the Nasty Bat, and really the only thing on his team that I need to get rid of is Porygon 2, and then a +2 Nasty Bat would be able to just sweep, apart from the potential Scarfers that could outspeed, so I need to watch out for that, because it could well be a Scarf Heliolisk, in which case Nasty Bat is not going to be able to sweep. You see, I go for another Toxic there. I was thinking he was probably going to switch out, but that's not the case. A Taunt there would have probably been quite nice. Yeah, or just some damage on this, but I don't really want to reveal Flamethrower just yet. Flamethrower there, obviously for Mega Sizzle, not going to be as useful this match, but it's alright, because it still hits Whimsicott hard, and it still hits Heliolisk hard, for which this might be quite useful. It doesn't hit Volcanion as hard, which is a bit of a shame. More immediate damage on that would be useful, but I guess I'll just have to deal with toxic damage, and also hoping to get my hazards up to stay, because that would be really useful. So here I just go for a Roost, keeping my Mew at as high a health as possible, because if it's a Specs Volcanion, I still really want to be able to take a hit from it. Probably can from this range, but only one hit, not two. So that's a bit of a shame. Now I'm going to switch into Klefki, because I'm thinking this is probably switching out. I'm not sure what he would want to switch into, though. And I'm feeling like maybe a Whimsicott, maybe to Encore me into a Roost, or maybe a Toxic. I don't know. But seeing that I'm a more defensive set, I would have thought Whimsicott for an Encore wouldn't be a bad call. He does actually just stay in to get the recover, because that's the other thing that I was thinking might occur. And now, even though I've seen the Magic Coat, I'm going to go for a Spike, because if he stays in this turn, because of toxic damage, he'll be under half health, and I doubt that Fizz will want that. So I am just going to go for a cheeky Spike here and start getting my hazards up, because it will really help with this Porygon. Obviously, Porygon being really bulky, but it doesn't have the lefties, so spike damage will really help, as well as the poison. It'll mean that switching in, it's going to take 18% just with this one spike and the poison, which is really, really nice. And then Whimsicott and Heliolisk, really importantly, because that's Volt switching a lot, so that'll be affected. And also Volcanion, if I get the rocks up and the spike, that'll really help. But he could still have the defog elements. So interestingly, Whimsicott comes in here, because Flash Cannon is definitely something that I could have. I actually opted for Dazzling Gleam just so that I have an immediate response to the Salamence, and then Foul Play for any Source Dancers that might be there. I'm going to go for a risky switch straight into my Crobat. It's only risky because of Stun Spore, and I'm not sure that he would run it. I see Leech Seed there, and I'm thinking maybe a Subseed set, probably with an attack, and then the last move could still be Stun Spore, or it could be Dual Stab, or it could be Memento, or it could be Tailwind, or it could be a number of different things. It could be Encore. So I'm not sure what it might be, but I'm thinking that having seen Leech Seed, I am going to risk just going for a Sludge Bomb here, threatening it out, because obviously if it stays in, then the Whimsicott is going to die. So that was something that I was kind of alright with. I go for a Sludge Bomb here as Hawlucha comes in, which is really weird, because obviously I could have gone for a Brave Bird, so wasn't sure if this thing was like Umbird and Cobra Berry, which is very situational, or maybe Sash. I'm not sure, but that was a very strange switch, and I don't know if it was just a sack, because Porygon 2 at that stage wouldn't have been able to switch in. So it could have been just a sack, as it doesn't really have any switches in on this, apart from maybe a Scarf that would have been able to take one hit. This could be Scarf, that could be why, but it would have just died to a Brave Bird, unless it had a Cobra Berry or something. Anyway, that Sludge Bomb damage is really nice. I have revealed that I'm special, but that's alright. I felt like that was okay. This thing is looking to be maybe more of a revenge killer, seeing as though he's got such a fast team. I should be able to pick things up off quite easily, especially with Porygon being so low. But taking some damage on the Hawlucha's good. I just didn't really understand the switch, and I am just going to go for another Sludge Bomb, because I don't really see a reason not to. So you see the Sludge Bomb does pretty good damage to the P2. I didn't actually calc whether it's Spadef or defensive at this stage. I am just going to go for another one, as Recover is the most likely play from the P2. He does go for the Recover, but with the Sludge Bomb damage and the Toxic, it means that I'm doing maybe just under 50% that turn. But with the Toxic this turn, it would be doing even more. I actually don't want to risk my Crobat this turn, because he might want to go for a Recover, or he might just go for an attack. And actually, I do want to preserve my Crobat, because it could be a very good revenge killer, as I said. So I'm going to switch straight into my Dragonite, which eats an Ice Beam. Quite easily, actually. That wouldn't have killed even if I didn't have my multi-scale. But yeah, I was not necessarily expecting that, but I probably should have seen it coming. I was thinking maybe more of a T-Wave or something. Dragonite not being super useful because 2 of its coverage moves are a bit useless. But Superpower there comes into play and it is able to take out the P2. Probably wanting to maybe Ice Beam again, I don't know. But I just take out the P2, which is great. It means that Nasty Bat actually maybe could sweep depending on Scarfers. And this is a really crucial turn. There are a few things that Fizz could go into to revenge right now. He's got Heliolisk, he's got Whimsicott, he's got Salamence, and probably Hawlucha would be able to do it as well. Volcanion could be slower than me, so he might not want to do that, but that's really the only option that he might not want to do. He actually goes into Salamence. We see that it is Moxie and not Intimidate, and I have a decision to make here. Do I want to stay in, or do I want to switch out? If I switch out, my switch-ins aren't too great. My Klefki doesn't get O-code, but it gets very heavily hit. Suicune could easily switch in, but I actually opt to just stay in because I'm thinking, in my head, Superpower is a really weird coverage move to have, so it could trick him into me being banded, and also I'm at -1, so I probably can't kill him anyway. But a massive -1 Expert Belt Dragon Claw almost takes out the Salamence, which is fantastic, as Fizz does opt to go for the cheeky Dragon Dance. That was risky because Moxie could imply a choiced Salamence. But I was thinking, because I was a -1 Dragonite who had just previously gone for a Superpower, I was pretty sure he was trying to maybe force me out and get that free Dragon Dance off. So I thought that was a relatively good play, and it turns out to be really great because the Salamence is now very low. Now, what's going through Fizz's mind right now is I've switched up moves and I could have E-Speed. I don't actually have E-Speed, but I could do. If he wants to KO me, he'd have to go for a Dragon-type move. So I think he's probably either going to go for a Dragon-type move to take me out, or switch out fearing the E-Speed. But I'm actually going to go into Klefki right now, because I very much doubt that he would risk going for a coverage move. If he did, that could be a little bit of a problem. Suicune could still eat any hit, so I can switch into that to take it out. But I was thinking that Klefki would be a cheeky way to get in there. Anyway, Klefki's in as he actually switches out into the Volcanion, as I say, he's fearing the E-Speed, which doesn't come out. And I'm actually going to switch back into Dragonite because I feel like it's done a really good job and I don't need it too much anymore because most things outspeed it. And I don't have the Earthquake for this anyway. So I felt like it was probably the most expendable member of my team. Actually, Fizz goes straight for a Fire Blast, which potentially would have been able to 2-hit KO from there. But it misses, which is a shame for Fizz. But it's good news for me because it means that I just get to fire off a Dragon Claw. It doesn't do anything because he switches straight into Whimsicott, but at this stage I'm just attacking what's in front of me because I've not got too much to lose. If I'm forcing switches, he's taking the spikes damage. If he stays in, then I'll hit what's in front of me, so that's good. I'm going to go for a Fire Punch now, trying to hit the Whimsicott. Because I do have that and it's Expert Belt, so it should do big damage if I survive a Moonblast, which I wouldn't. But if he decides to predict something with a Leech Seed or something like that, he actually switches out into Volcanion again, maybe predicting a switch into Klefki. I'm not really sure at this stage. So I go for a Fire Punch. Really, I'm just getting nice chip damage on this Volcanion with a spike. And I'm going to stay in and just go for a Dragon Claw again, try to get a bit more damage on the Volcanion. And yeah, just see how we go from there, because all this chip damage will be really, really nice. I'm EV'd to outspeed a modest this thing, Volcanion. But actually the Volcanion outspeeds me, which makes me think that it's either timid or it's Scarf. And I'm thinking potentially Scarf. That's what I'm thinking right now. So anyway, I'm going to go into my Crocodile that definitely outspeeds a timid Volcanion. But even if he is Scarf, he's going for HP Ice, or HP Dragon, but probably HP Ice. And I know that I can live 1 HP Ice. I know that and I really, really, really want to get at my rocks. As I've said, Mence is the only potential defogger. We've seen Dragon Dance. I doubt it's a defogger. So if I can get my rocks up right now, the residual damage will be doing so much work for me. The spikes have already helped so much. And if this is a choiced Volcanion, getting the rocks up will be fantastic because it locks itself into a move and then I can respond and force it out, and that's really, really great for me. So I'm going to get up my rocks. If he did want to stay and try to 2-hit KO me with Hidden Power Ice, I could switch into both either my Klefki or my Suicune. Both take it on really well. So anyway, instead of going into the Salamence, which I thought might be an in before rocks play, or a switch into the EQ, he actually goes into the Hawlucha, which would have died to a knockoff. But yeah, it just comes in and tries to set up a sub, which is very, very cheeky, if I do say so. I decided to switch into defensive Suicune. It's definitely a safe switch. It can't OHKO me at all. I was thinking maybe a Lychee Berry would pop to do Unburden, but that's not the case. And I do have Raw on my Suicune. Fantastic. I'm not sure if it would die to Rocks, the Hawlucha, but in any case, it's very low. Can't set up subs anymore, so it's much less of a threat. So that Swords Dance was good. It could have potentially got like a Power Hub Sky Attack off or a High Jump Kick, but my Suicune keeping all of its health is really helpful. Now that Salamence has gone and Hawlucha's so low, my Suicune can potentially be used to maybe check the Volcanion, especially if it's Scarf, and Pressure would really help because we've seen Fire Blast, probably Steam Eruptions there. They don't have much PP, and I do have the rest. I was meant to put Chesto on this, but I put Lefties on. I'm not sure if that's going to be too much of an issue. As I say, if it's a Scarf Volcanion, then I can definitely PP stall with Rest without a Sleep Talk or Chesto Berry. But anyway, right now I'm going to switch into my Klefki. Its main job was to check Salamence. Salamence is now gone. It's got some special defense investments, so it can take anything from the Heliolisk, and I felt like that was my best play to make. There's not really anything that can set up on this, so I'm not losing too much momentum in that respect. So I felt like that was a decent enough play. I've still got Spadef Mew, and it is toxic, but that can also be used for Heliolisk. And at this stage I was feeling quite happy, but I was still aware that there were things like Heliolisk is still a threat. I don't know the item. It could also be a Scarfer. If it is, that's a bit of a problem because Crobat obviously won't be able to deal with it very well. And I need to be aware of like the Whimsicott doing tricksy things. I'm not too worried about the Hawlucha. It could still be a problem if it does manage to set up a Swords Dance, but I don't think I'll let it do that. And then the Volcanion, because of the hazards, it's quite well in check. So I'm quite happy about that. Here, the Whimsicott actually comes in. I don't have Dazzling Gleam, and I'm pretty sure Fizz knows that because I have switched out on this previously. So I'm just going to go for a Dazzling Gleam this time. I want to see if what he would want to try to do maybe on a Crobat. I don't want Crobat to get seeded because it means that he then has an easier switch-in on my Crobat, and I don't want him to have easy switch-ins on my Crobat. So if something like switched in on a Sludge Bomb and then gets the Leech Seed recovery, it's not too much of a problem. But yeah, I just wanted to get some immediate damage on with Dazzling Gleam as well, which does do a little bit of damage, which is helpful. Now I'm going to switch into Crobat so that he doesn't have the seeds on, and that basically means that I'm going to get a KO with the Sludge Bomb. So I've not clicked Nasty Plot at this stage. Don't want to do it in front of a Whimsicott in case it stays in and encores me the next turn, because obviously he's seen that I'm special. He knows that that might be the case, and he's going to have to sack something here anyway. But actually he chooses to sack the Hawlucha, which is fine. I can take that out with the Sludge Bomb. So Crobat are really putting in the work right now. And we see here, I believe this is when we see it, because there isn't really too much that Fizz can switch in at this stage to my Crobat. Only things that might outspeed it. So that's going to give me a clue as to what might be scarfed on his team. So I believe he does switch in. Well, he's taking his time from this decision. At this stage, I'm pretty sure he only had one thing that he could switch in, which is his Volcanion. And that, to me, definitely signals that it is scarfed, because it will outspeed me and be able to get a big hit off, and I want to preserve this because it basically wins me the game once his Scarfit is down. And I'm not sure, but I think that this Volcanion might die to another switch in on rocks. I know that it's got HP Ice, and its dual stabs don't do much at all to Suicune, so Suicune is a really safe switch in at this stage, and I can just Roar, even though I know that he may well stay in to get damage, but rawing is the safest way for me to get rid of this. I've only got Ice Beam, so I couldn't really do anything else to it. So I just raw. Unfortunately, Heliolisk comes in, but actually it was Heliolisk or Whimsicott, and neither of them are particularly good matchups for Suicune. I am going to keep Suicune around because I really don't need Klefki at this stage. Doesn't really do anything. Loses to everything else on his team. Leech Seed, Whimsicott definitely beats it. And this thing definitely beats it. And yeah, basically Mew and Suicune are more important. Just in case he does survive the next Hazard switch in with his Volcanion, I wanted to keep Suicune around. So anyway, the keys go down here. But that's okay because I am able to go into my Mew, and that's fine. I went into Mew. I could have gone into Crobat, but well, I've seen him switch up moves now, so I could have gone into Crobat and just fired off a Sludge Bomb, but I wasn't 100% sure if it KO'd, just because I don't know his EV spread. It probably would KO because I've got the Poison Barb. Rather than the Expert Belt, just want to put it out there, but that was definitely the right choice to make. Poison Barb over Expert Belt was definitely the right choice because I haven't had to click Heat Wave or Giga Drain because neither Rhyperior or Mega Scizor are there. And as I said, I've got Flamethrower, which should do good damage to the Heliolisk, seeing as though it's probably Dry Skin for the Suicune. Here, I believe I go for a Flamethrower. As the Volcanion comes in, I know that's going to be really low health if it does survive the hazards, which it doesn't. It just goes down. And yeah, so Mew is going to took the Volt Switch damage and the Toxic damage, which is understandable why you'd want to get that chip with the Heliolisk just to try for the KO. I thought it might have Dark Pulse with the Expert Belt, because we've seen it switch up moves. We haven't seen an item. It would make sense. It was Expert Belt with the Dark Pulse. Might flinch me. That's why I went straight for the Flamethrower and not the Roost, because I don't want to be playing around with Toxic turns and roosting. If I break through the flinch from the Dark Pulse and Roost, I've missed a potential opportunity at a KO. At this stage, Flamethrower should take out both of his remaining Pokemon. So Mew was definitely going to get a KO here. After the hazards, though, Crobat was going to clean up anyway because that Heliolisk couldn't survive a Sludge Bomb. Definitely, whatever the spread, definitely couldn't survive a Sludge Bomb at that range. And Mew's going to take a little bit more damage there. I wasn't wanting to risk Crobat switching in on Whimsicott at this stage because it is my way of taking it out, and I don't want to mess around at all. And it could have something weird, or it could maybe, I don't know. I don't think there was anything realistically that it could do. I probably could have preserved a 4-0 there. But I mean, at this stage of the season, it's not going to mean too much to me, and I'd rather just go for the safe win rather than messing around at all. Just go into my Bat and go for a Sludge Bomb. So yeah, Bat was just so good this game, and I was really happy that the special set worked. I think he had 2 substitute Pokemon in this and Hawlucha. I'm not sure. We didn't ever actually see the final move on that Whimsicott. It could have been Encore, it could have been Sub, could have been Memento, could have been Tailwind, could have been a number of things. I would guess Sub, and then he also had the Sub Hawlucha. And Crobat, because of the Infiltrator, actually was a really, really good matchup against them. The Sludge Bomb was, I think, completely unresisted on his team. Yeah, it was. So it was a really good thing to have. Brave Bird would have meant recoil damage, so it just meant that Crobat could stay even healthier. But yeah, that was a really, really strong match, and I did feel kind of in control through most of it. There were just some big plays I had to make in terms of playing around the Salamence. I knew that it was a big threat, and I knew that it was definitely the bigger threat if it set up a Dragon Dance. If it just went for a Dragon-type attack, I could respond quite easily after that. But I felt like I bluffed the band pretty well with my Dragonite and got that nice, massive Dragon Claw hit off. I can't believe that was a -1 Dragon Claw as well. That was big damage. Big damage. So yeah, really pleased with my performance this time. The hazards all worked really well. Though it was a similar team that I brought last time, I think the changes were just enough to throw Fizz off. It was definitely going along with the mind games as to what was the same, what was different, and I think I made the correct alterations for it to be effective. So thank you very much for the game, Fizz. It was really, really enjoyable, and I got my salty run back, which is really nice. And 4-7. That's really not a bad record. That's not too bad with this draft, which I've been struggling with so much. I'm actually really, really pleased that I managed to get 4 wins. I think that, yeah, I've really pulled it out. And it was more getting to know how to use these mons and getting to know how to use them together. I think the biggest issue with my team has been the clef key. In this match, it actually worked out. But I still would say I'm not particularly good at using it. I don't think it's particularly fits with this draft. And, yeah, I think that alternatives would have been superior. That's something to take into future drafts, but I'm very, very happy with how it was this time. So yeah, all that's left to be said is I've been foofootoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.